Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
Hey guys, welcome back to one more episode of Shunya One.
Shunya One.
And I'm so happy we got a name.
Yes, we do. We got a name, Shunya One.
We didn't have a name when we recorded the last time. So some interesting stuff has happened this week. And just to shout out to everyone who's listened in to the first episode.
Yeah, we've gotten a great response on this. I mean, compared to like a lot of other show launches, this one's done well. I'm very happy with.
Let's hope we keep entertaining some listeners and they don't get bored.
How did the name Shunya One get into the place?
Because we were stuck. And we were thinking
is it
thinking.
0.0.1 or 0.01?
It's binary.
Binary, man.
Do it
Come
in
on.
any way.
You're the
no
only...
reference to Peter Thiel. No association. So just putting it out there.
Yes.
But hey, so thanks everyone. Thanks everyone who listened in to episode 1. We touched on some interesting topics there, and we have a bunch of other stuff which has happened this week and overall which we want to talk about. So let's get the show on the road.
Let's do it.
And we have our next new guest here on board today with us. So say hi to Hardik, who's been a longtime friend, big-time techie. In fact, one of the first under 5,000 number user on Twitter, and a whole bunch of other introductions which I'll let him do himself.
Hello everyone, I am Hardik. I spent a bunch of my early days of my career in Microsoft, quit that a few years ago, and now I am with a startup where we are doing a lot of interesting things in the space of online videos.
Yeah.
But that's for the later
But that's one of the hottest things online in general, right?
Yes, online videos is the next big thing.
Crazy.
Which will take up the entire internet.
Yeah.
Stop saying things like that, man. We're online audio. Don't say things like that.
But see, you heard it here first. So I think we all play a part.
The online audio thing is also going to get onto YouTube, which is still an online video thing.
That is true. Well, yeah, we use YouTube, right? I mean, like this show is available for people on YouTube. Yeah. Hey, you know what? We should actually let people know where they can find the show, right? I mean, like there are a bunch of different places where you guys can get the show. It's available on YouTube, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud. You can find it on the IVM Podcast website, the IVM Podcast app. You can find it on any of your favorite other apps that you use for listening to podcasts. Basically, we try and make it available as much as we can.
Yep.
Sorry for that solid little plug.
No worries. All right, let's get this show on the road.
Let's go.
So what are we talking about today? It's been an interesting week again in cybersecurity.
Yes,
our favorite topic, so it seems. And wow, some crazy shit is going down this week, as usual. But more of it is getting reported, which is the fun part. And so, what do you think, guys? Latest stuff?
It's been a nutty week, right? I mean, which one? Should we get into Zomato first?
I think Zomato's our favorite.
Zomato is the favorite.
Everyone's favorite app.
Everybody loves Zomato.
I use Zomato to a ludicrous degree, right? I mean, I order lunch from Zomato almost every day.
Exactly.
It is crazy that this happened. But, based on everything I've read about how they handled it, they did as much as they could.
Absolutely. I think, to be very honest, while Zomato is one of our favorite apps everywhere, right? But people have had a love-hate relationship with the brand for years. Yeah. And I'm just talking about consumers. Restaurants have had that for much longer.
Oh yeah, restaurants are.
But they have actually been on top of their game most times. Yeah, and they have experience on their side. Mm-hmm. They've been around a while. They've built their tech. Pretty solidly.
And they've invested a lot in tech.
Yeah. They've always hired the best tech guys.
The key is investing in the tech to handle situations like what has happened in the week.
So I think this was them getting caught off guard a little bit.
But, again, I feel like, this stuff happens, right? I mean, when you build complex systems, stuff can happen, right? I mean, you can't always be 100% secure all the time, especially if something is something you built 5 years ago, and you're continuing to use it. These things can happen.
I think that's the conversation here, right? The fact that, hey, these things are now happening more frequently, and everyone has to sort of up their game with these real plausible threats rather than just saying, hey, it's not my problem, probably not going to happen to me. I think the hygiene factor of security has to really go up a notch, especially like prime products like these, and for everyone in general.
Absolutely.
And for a change, I think it could be a good thing that has happened to them, because they got to know that there was a leak in their systems. And I loved the way they had the blog written out there, explaining to users that no, it was not the credit card data which got lost. It was probably a hash or a salted password. But pretty much their credit card information was safe. And again, it's to reiterate a point that when you do shopping online, most of the times none of your credit card details will get stolen. So yes, it's still pretty much safe.
They were spot on with the PR. I think they
pretty
know
much safe.
PR 101 is now in part of their...
You do need to be careful about where you use your credit cards. I mean, it's not... it's not
right.
Like,
the message
is that it is... Well, yes, you can trust systems to shop online.
Absolutely, yes.
Right. But what's happening is, but may not be for the consumer so much, like you're saying. Maybe his credit card info, financial info isn't affected, but it's still user information out there, and people feel scared that I have signed in on so many platforms.
Using the same password.
Probably using the same password, which is a bad idea.
Every major newspaper today in the morning had the word Zomato and hack next to each other.
Yes, which isn't great for the company.
That's not a good thing.
But that's our news media sensationalizing everything, right?
So one thing that I think everybody should do is not have the same password for different services.
Use a manager.
Just use a manager, whatever it is, and definitely do not write it down.
On that topic, I think a lot of people don't really know the benefits of using a password manager. I know I've used one for a while now, but I also got into it pretty late. In fact, very shamelessly, I think I bought it only when it was on sale, and like every other typical Indian guy. But I think we should talk about why a password manager even exists, like not beyond the point of you not being able to remember different passwords. I think it does a lot more than that.
It does. So I mean, like, I use LastPass, and for me it works fantastically. I mean, like, one is it generates weird passwords, right? You use characters, special characters, numbers, you use capitals, you use small, and you can create 12-character, 15-character passwords. The longer your password is, the more secure it is generally. So that becomes one. The other thing I love about it is it makes... So as fellow entrepreneurs, I'm sure you guys deal with the frustration of paying taxes.
Absolutely.
And having to go to that tax website to pay those taxes.
Absolutely.
With LastPass, they have a film form thing where you can just set up everything so that all you need to do is fill this form with my tax information. Boom, it's all there. Hit go and you're done.
And being an ex-Microsoft guy, I can say LastPass actually works with Windows Edge.
Yes, it does. It does.
So I have been using the same thing for a while.
That's something I haven't even heard much about. So
well, Edge is getting popular, man. Edge is getting popular.
Hardik jumping in with the Microsoft versions of most products.
Yeah, but I think I just think these password managers, they just make life so much easier, and they work on your mobile and stuff like that too. You got to pay for it. LastPass is free on the web, but you got to pay for it on the mobile. But it's still it's $12 a year. I mean, like, that's really not that much money.
As a general takeaway, please pay for everything that you are going to use in your life.
Oh yeah, don't pirate software.
Do not pirate software. Please buy the apps.
And we're not saying that as people who are in the software business. We're saying this from a be careful perspective.
You have to understand why people do this, though.
Money.
But it's also the perception of value. I think India has this ingrained misconception that software is free and software doesn't cost much to make, or rather they've already recovered the cost and now we're just paying them for profits, and we don't associate software with something tangible. Which is why we get into that entire zone of, hey, what am I paying for, right?
It is actually. So I mean, there's some interesting conversations around that as well, right? I mean, like, the way that software as a service has kind of become a major thing, right? The way that, so I mean, like, almost everything we use over here except for Windows, I think, is all as a service. We pay subscriptions for everything because what that does is it ensures that we have the latest version of everything. Whether it's Photoshop, whether it's our Pro Tools recording software.
Also, I think businesses have figured that out. Businesses have figured out the ease of not having to maintain, upgrade, and especially small businesses, right?
It's actually simpler to have a subscription-based model for if you have very small teams because
you don't need an IT guy making sure everything's up to date and working and so on.
And the best part is if you have your auto updates turned on, you're already patched as soon as it's available out there.
Our next story, we wanted to talk about WannaCry, right? None of us need to really worry about that because it's like I got Creators Edition Windows 10. I don't have anything to fear.
Exactly. Now, I'm happy you jumped into that because, again, that's been the next biggest, hottest, like crazy story out there. Like, how could a big breach like this worldwide go out, and that too in this format? You know, we've been seeing DDoS attacks, we've been seeing all sorts of weird data leaks, but this sort of ransomware is now on the rise. I mean, it's a whole new, and it's being fueled with the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market.
There's no way to track where the money is going.
I think it's a whole genre of cybercrime in itself now.
Which is, it's a massive issue, right? I mean, like, because it is literally, and
some big guys have been hit.
No, I mean, like,
crazy big
guys. So if you look at UK, I think the biggest hospitals got hit.
All got hit.
And so I'll give
ransomware, not just hack to kill you, hack to destroy you.
No, this is pay me money, give me extortion.
This is holding you hostage.
So one of the reasons why that would have probably also happened is because people were still on XP, or say Windows 7, or say Windows 8.
Right. So people should realize that computers are out there on Windows 3.11.
Yeah,
I am sure. In a government building somewhere, running.
2 years ago, I saw a Windows 98 PC running.
Hey,
a Windows 98 running PC 2 years ago. I saw it.
I'm pretty sure.
I've seen people running Microsoft Bob as well. So that's
why. We don't want to go about. We don't want to know what things you've seen, Hardik. Some dark tales come out of there, but no, it's crazy. And again, we could talk about how it's stupid because the people didn't update and so on and so forth. But
so actually, I think the more interesting conversation around the WannaCry thing is probably around. Did you read Frank Shaw's blog post around it?
No, I haven't.
So Frank Shaw wrote about how Microsoft. So I mean, like, it's interesting. The New York Times placed blame on Microsoft, that day itself, Frank Shaw he's their head legal guy, right?
Bradshaw.
So he,
Bradshaw.
Frank Shaw?
Bradshaw.
All right. No, Brad Smith.
Brad Smith.
Frank Shaw, Brad Smith. Frank Shaw is the operations guy, right?
Yeah.
So Brad Smith had a post out where he was talking about how they actually blamed the U.S. government for this. Because they sat on this exploit for a long time, and it's not that they created the exploit and sat on it. It's that they didn't inform them after they knew that the exploit leaked, because it was stolen. Right? There was an NSA. The stuff got stolen from the NSA. Right. At that point in time, he's of the opinion that the NSA should have let the vendors know that this exists.
Yes,
this is a problem. You got to deal with this.
Provided they knew. Provided they knew that.
So I think they knew about it. They were probably just holding it back if they wanted to access or use it for something else. But
once it leaked, once it became something that was out in the wild as such, right? Where somebody stole it off the NSA servers, this particular exploit. Once that happened, at that point in time, they have a responsibility in some ways. I feel like to let Microsoft know that this is going to happen.
I'm pretty sure. See, the NSA is like that dark side of the US government, which obviously always looks at its own interests first, right? So those guys were probably thinking of, can we still let this slide? Can we keep this out? And who knows? Maybe they hope no one would figure this out, and they would be able to do some hacks of their own before
people wouldn't have figured it out probably until it got stolen. Or leaked, it would have still been out there. Thank God it got leaked.
Apparently, this bug has been in existence since Windows 97.
90 XP.
Or maybe 95. Before XP.
Maybe 95.
95. This bug has been there since before 95. It was found in the context of Windows 7 when the NSA when they were doing their digging.
Right.
And it persisted into 8. It did not come into 10 at all.
Because 10 is a ground up.
Yeah, so it did not come into 10 at all. So, but I mean, I think there is a certain amount of validity to that position, right? That I mean, like, if a government has found an exploit and that exploit then leaks out into the wild, then at that point in time, I understand that the government found the bug so that they could create an exploit, and they have their own reasoning for doing that, right?
But all sorts of backdoors.
Yeah, but once it gets out, right? Once it's leaked, at that point, I feel like they do have something to do with this, right?
But that also means they implicitly accept that, hey, we found this and we sat on this and so on, which now they have to anyway.
They have to anyway, right? And I mean, like everybody knows the NSA is sitting on exploits for everything. I mean, like we all know this. I mean, there's no
probably even Apple.
100%.
The only thing that they're probably not sitting on, maybe that's the case with FBI too, is they were not able to get past the security of the iPhone.
They eventually did, no?
But they did, is what they said they did. So
we don't know. We never know about it.
Well, I mean, like they dropped all of the proceedings, right, against Apple about that. So I mean, like they're not doing that if they didn't get the info they wanted. Right. Because otherwise, it was a perfect test case for the FBI, right? I mean, like for the FBI, you're talking about terrorism. Correct. When you start talking about terrorism, everybody's like, yeah, FBI, do what you want, right? So in this case, that was not the case.
Yeah,
they backed down. So they backed down only after they must have gotten the information, right?
So coming to the other side of it, and I also know why businesses would have not upgraded their systems is if you look at these hospitals, right? They interface with a lot of medical devices. Right. Unfortunately, a lot of those medical devices still work on the Win32 systems, and the moment they would have moved to say 8s or the 10s or the 7s. It would have moved from a COM-DECOM model to something else. Sorry to bring some little...
I think
the thing is, and I'm saying this because I've been on that other side of business where, at hospitals,
right,
to use a certain set of devices, you still have to use a standalone Windows XP machine or a Windows 98 machine.
Not just hospitals, so many places, the hardware dictates the kind of software you run, right?
Absolutely.
Because the hardware manufacturer hasn't updated in years compatibility and drivers. You need to run an archaic OS.
Again, this place where I saw the Windows 98 machine, it was because they needed to run a specific dot matrix printer.
Exactly.
That's why they were running a Windows 98 machine.
So I don't think the blame is also on the businesses. It's not entirely onto the businesses as well.
It's all connected.
It is everybody to put
it's
together.
All connected. They bought that hardware with a bunch of money. They don't want to upgrade the hardware. Hence, they have to stick with the bad software. Which is also probably pirated at some places, you never know. And it's just a cycle. And I think things like this sort of bring it to light how deeply entrenched that issue is. Yeah. If a hospital chain in the UK, which you think would follow certain standards of being on top of their game in terms of security and so on, if it can happen to them, it can happen to pretty much any company in the world.
I don't know why was India shielded with those attacks. Anybody?
I think weekend. Honestly, weekend. That's my only this, right? Because you had to click an email, right? Yeah. And by the time the weekend was over, everybody
government offices on 6 p.m. on Friday, I think people left.
Yeah. So maybe that.
It's probably it's probably a very interesting social dynamic to why it didn't spread so much in India because it had to, like you said, it had to be user activated on that machine.
And once you knew that this was a thing, everybody got warnings. Everybody was warned about this.
There was a huge webinar.
Yeah. So then at that point, I think we got we got lucky because of that.
I don't know if you've seen what the Bangalore police Instagram handle has been doing. It's very interesting. So they and this happened like a couple of days ago. And what they did is they had a nice Instagram post out there which says, "Please zoom in." Where there is the Bangalore police logo, and on that logo it's written, "Please go ahead and click link to," and we have a very surprise waiting for you. So the moment somebody would click onto it, they're taken to another Instagram post, and there was a big message saying that this is exactly what you should never do.
I love that,
and it's awesome. A fun
that
way of
telling people that is amazing.
What they should not do.
So phishing, right? Every bank sends out emails about phishing and so on, and probably to us early adopters, it seems like a little like, "Hey, dude, we're not so stupid."
Right. But it's a problem.
But I've seen users, including people in my family who are new to computers and so on. These things nowadays are not so easily detectable. You just don't know which one's real, which one's false, and there's such a huge this volume of these things coming in every day in your email. Like Gmail does a pretty decent job of filtering, but stuff still comes through.
The more interesting bit to that is because you've not updated your systems,
right?
Your browsers have not been updated,
right?
And because your browsers have not been updated, they are still unable to detect something like this thing. So if you look at the Chrome browser now on the desktop, the moment you know it's a phishing site, very interestingly, they have made the entire site as red with a big warning, right? In the older days, it would have been just a cross symbol and a very small, red stop box out there. But now, because they've also realized that people are probably not upgrading their systems.
Ignoring, or we've just become insensitive to these sort of things because we see so much spam in our inbox anyway. We say, it's spam and so on. But this is real. So I think what we're trying to talk about
I think the filters on your Gmails and everything, I think they're doing a very good job at actually filtering out a lot of spams.
Yeah.
In fact, if
you're probably seeing half of
it. Yeah, maybe less
not
than
even
half.
that. I mean, like I honestly I can't remember the last time I got like real spam. Like, something that I would consider spam, right?
But or when is the last time you got invited to win shitloads of dollars from some Nigerian national?
It's been a while. I mean, like, I don't go into the spam folder, but I mean, like, on the the 4,
I don't think we get it on the inbox.
Yeah,
but
the 4 tabs that they have, I don't get anything that I'm not supposed to get. I never go into the spam folder.
It's also a function of how much email you get, by the way. If you realize, we're probably heavy email users.
Right.
For folks like my parents or anyone else who don't get so much email, they tend to read everything.
If
they get 5 mails a day, let me read 5 mails.
They would be the first ones to go into the promotion tab.
No, you're absolutely right. So I have a cousin, a slight digression. I have a cousin who refused to participate in family email groups because she's like, I get too tense when I get so much email.
Yeah.
Because they look at it as like correspondence that I have to respond to, I have to look at, I have to go through the whole thing. So, I mean, like, that's just, it is absolutely
I think this is part of now, like, last week we spoke about how social media and it's taken up and how social media is sort of giving voice to people. And yet there's a side where there's so much fake and all sorts of spam happening there as well. I think this has been there much longer. I think email has...
email spam have been there, will always be there, no matter how many social media platforms come up and go. I think emails will still be there.
Right. So I think people have been getting exploited for a while. It's just that when stuff like this happens on a global scale, we realize
how much it is,
how big an impact it. But people are getting scammed every day. I think software developers and product developers have to be really cognizant of the fact that their user experience can be manipulated. People can be manipulated into, thinking it's genuine and so on.
Right.
I think all of us in the industry need to understand that.
And in fact, what has been happening, and I read this story somewhere, is that the way people are now doing phishing attacks or spam attacks is by taking banner ads, and placing it, bypassing all the Google checks.
Awesome.
It has happened a couple of times. I've read it. Right.
Every time Google puts up a wall, people figure out.
And unsuspecting people, what they would end up doing is they would click onto that banner and they are taken to that phishing site, which is I think the other way.
And they're getting better and better in design, in kind. I mean, I recently read an exploit which even mimics the Chrome HTTPS signage. Right? So you think you're used to seeing the green sign every day,
but not looking at the certificate at all.
Exactly.
And I don't think half of the people would even realize that what is the difference between HTTP and the HTTPS. I mean, people don't know that.
Of course.
Nobody does. Honestly, nobody does. I mean, like, we do, but nobody does.
Yeah. No, so it's interesting where while we have on one side, we have like massive B2B attacks like WannaCry, and then you have Zomato data leaks. Both of these things affect real people. It obviously ransomware it has a monetary effect to it also, and we're talking about this because these news stories get sensationalized and so on. But next week it'll be something else. People will forget, right?
So I mean, like, this stuff is gonna happen. These are complicated systems. Complicated systems are by definition, they're not perfect, right? I mean, like, if you have a simple system, you have a 4-column database and you want to secure that's pretty damn easy to do.
Right.
But the second you start dealing with a complex system, at that point in time, it becomes extremely complicated to make sure that it's secure across all levels and stuff like that. So the systems that we are working on, though they may look simple, are incredibly complex at the back, right?
Yeah. In fact, that's where, I mean, just to jump off from there, since we were talking about how we have a lot of these vulnerabilities come in from the fact that we're using old hardware, which is so dumb and probably needs legacy software to go with it.
Right.
On the flip side of this is how new hardware, which is fancy and which is the IoT age and which is connected to the internet and built from the ground up to talk to everything else around it seamlessly, even that can get hacked.
That's actually...
those hacks are even scarier.
Yeah, and those hacks are incredibly dangerous and kind of... they're not well secured.
We've not seen the extent of what's possible there.
Well, I mean, like, we haven't, but I mean, like, we've seen some of it, right? We saw the Amazon thing that happened a couple of months ago, where it went off because of a bunch of coordinated acts from IoT devices.
Right. So blenders. Your blender can hack you guys.
Yeah.
But
I mean, like, take down the internet, right? I mean, they took down AWS, which is essentially take down the internet.
The moment AWS went down, I think most of the startups or the internet services went down simply because everybody relies on it.
Yeah. And they don't talk about that much, by the way.
I think, I mean, like, the other thing is these IoT people do such a miserable job of kind of making their own systems secure, right? It's like the most...
they're all new, right?
Yeah.
Protocols are new. Everyone's still figuring out. So I have a little understanding of this space, but because everyone's still figuring out what should be the right protocol, what should be the standard, everyone's pretty much making their own at some level. They're using something or the other. There's a lot of experiments out there still. So while we are in this phase, the consumer product goods companies are actually accelerating their IoT range pretty fast.
Right.
And that's where they are sort of jumping the gun and saying,
we're not ready.
I'll put Wi-Fi and Bluetooth in pretty much everything.
Yeah, and Amitabh Bachchan promoting
a Bluetooth AC which you can control with your app and so on. Right? So it sounds great because they're trying to usher in the age of using things which are connected.
Question to the two of you. Do you have any IoT devices at home?
Consumer IoT?
Consumer IoT.
No, not yet.
I don't think so.
I do now have a internet-connected dog treat dispenser.
Okay.
With a camera, by the way.
I don't think I have any. And I do have a webcam which I can control extra.
I have an Airtel DTH box.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is a TV, which is still an IoT device behind the scenes.
Fair point. Right? I have a Tata Sky box. Yeah, I guess that's a...
I think all of those devices which connect
Actually, I have a NAS device, which is...
they all do. Yeah,
right?
we all do have devices. So we don't have teddy bears and flicking lights which you turn off on the internet.
Let's talk about that.
So it's just not IoT device. It's any device which actually connects to the internet.
Correct.
Is open for somebody to come and just attack.
So did someone hear about this? The teddy bear attack of this week, right?
And there was this 11-year-old kid who went to a security conference, had a Raspberry Pi with him. Hacked into a regular Bluetooth, and what he did is he actually started to control the teddy bear using that Bluetooth.
First of all, let's say it was a Bluetooth-enabled teddy bear.
Yes,
it was.
It was a very millennial toy.
I'm trying to understand what exactly a Bluetooth-enabled teddy bear does. I have absolutely no idea.
Probably
it is what an IR-controlled car would do. Which is like, use the remote to make the car go forward or backward.
Okay.
Right? You could do the same commands using Bluetooth.
Yeah. Okay.
It's as simple as that. It's like moving away from
But what does a teddy bear
point
do?
of line of sight to something which...
To something else.
But what does a teddy bear do with that connectivity? I mean, like...
Open the mouse and... right? Maybe it is not doing... It is only meant to go forward or backward.
See, we don't have kids yet, so we don't know. He does have one.
So then he probably has a good idea what a teddy bear would do.
So I think he's getting into that space of understanding which toys do I let my kid have.
What do you do, right?
What's the functionality of a teddy bear? You got that.
Yeah. But I think the sensational part of that story was the fact that it was an 11-year-old kid who figured all this out. Obviously, he's
in a security conference.
Probably he's much smarter than all of us here.
I'm sure he is.
But at the same time, the fact that such things are out there in the market, products are out there which don't have... When developing them, probably the guys haven't even thought of the kind of exploits which are possible, right? Consumer goods exploits are a whole different genre.
It's
like a guy setting up a AWS server thinks that, hey, I might get hacked.
Right.
Hospital equipment should be thinking that, hey, I might get hacked.
At least in the last 15 years, yeah.
But toys...
Who's going to think about that?
Yeah.
But at the same time, a lot of... if they are internet connected, that means that they can be used...
I think that's the message we have.
What's a DDoS account, right? Attack. It's essentially a bunch of pings.
Right.
So any of these devices can send pings out.
Right.
So even something as kind of silly as an internet connected teddy bear they need to figure out what is the...
I think the standard hygiene of security protocols need to go down for all these categories of devices.
So just a trip back to memory, during the older days when we were kids, anybody's heard about the Melissa virus or the I Love You virus?
Yes. Of course, the I Love You virus. I remember that. The firecrackers, right?
The firecrackers,
I remember that. I used it. I actually got hit by that.
I got hit by the Melissa myself. And, if you have grown through that, you probably know that you can get a virus or you can get attacked even by using a simple screensaver.
Yeah.
Yes. So again, see, it was playing on our vulnerabilities at that time.
We never saw how many of these animated things had you seen, right? I'd never seen in 1998 or 99, whenever this was. Who saw these animated video things, right?
Nobody.
I remember that when it happened, a friend of mine, he used to love it, so he used to keep playing it over and over again. It's like see it again, see firecrackers. Yeah. So that it was a very different time, I guess.
And just to bring that up, there was the
Anakonikova
virus, which hit, and I believe that was the first email virus.
They were playing on the names right there.
Right? It was, that
targeting a certain kind of individual.
Pretty much everybody on the internet at that point in time.
I think so.
Yeah. She became very famous.
All us geeky guys in dorm rooms. So,
and I think that was probably, from what I know of, I think that was the first email virus that would have hit you.
Probably.
The first
one which really became popular.
Probably, I think.
The first one I got hit was the I Love You virus. That I remember that very clearly. I was in New York. I got hit. All of a sudden, everything, my computer completely stops working. I have no idea what to do. And at that point, this was Windows 98 times, right? So it wasn't like now that, all right, format reinstall. It was like, oh God, I got to go to a Sony place to kind of figure out what to do with this now.
Right.
So I remember that really, really.
Yeah, 2003, I think there's this other one which was called Blasterworm.
I remember that.
Again, another famous one. Sorry, I'm bringing all of those.
I think these were early warning signs that, hey, this stuff is real.
Yeah.
Don't just blindly think, oh, I have antivirus, nothing can happen to me. So I think we are going to see
how many of you are using antiviruses right now.
I'm not using any antivirus. I use Microsoft Security Essentials.
Correct. So if you're using an antivirus, it's not enough. You have to update the virus engine.
Exactly.
So while you would have an antivirus installed, please buy the subscriptions and please update the engines.
Hardik, I know you're a Microsoft loyalist forever, but what do you tell a Mac user like me? What do I do? I've been known to be safe from all of this for years.
But that's not true.
But that is not true. I know
that is not true. Long back, what would happen is that attackers would never target Macs because they were just installed on, say, 5% of the entire world, right?
Yeah, I think that's what people need to know.
Yeah.
So there was no incentive for an attacker to go after Mac systems, and which is why they were not being attacked at that point of time. If you come back to current days, I think it's there on, say, 20%, 30% of the systems.
Yep.
And
they're high value users, right?
And
people know that.
Yeah.
And they're equally out there, to get attacked by anybody. So yes, if you're a Mac user, you're still not safe.
Yeah, you still need to be.
You need to have safeguards.
You got to be careful about this stuff too, right? Most of the stuff can just be handled by being smart about it, right? But that doesn't apply to people who are not so technical, right? But if you are reasonably technical, you're pretty safe as long as you're don't go to the Pirate Bay. Right. Don't go to don't go to all these kind of sketchy websites. Don't click attachments from people who you don't know, right? As long as you're careful about that kind of stuff.
Actually, do not click any attachments which you think has been even sent by your known people, but they will probably not send it out.
Yeah.
Right, so it's just not about people you do not know. It is also from people who know.
Did you hear about the Google Docs thing that happened?
Yes, and they shut it down.
Yeah.
You could actually search. You could actually search the
entire sort of took away the thunder from that.
Yeah.
But it was going fast.
It was going fast. It was shared documents.
Yes, and the page was made to look really authentically like a Google sign-in page.
And
and it was coming from friends, and it was a genuine looking document.
This is scary stuff, man. I try and say that you try and be careful and you should be okay, but at the same time, this stuff gets more sophisticated.
I think I'm going to reference one of my favorite 404 pages or something on So when you open privacy incognito mode on Chrome, it gives you a small few lines of warning. I don't know if you guys have read it, but the one thing it says is, hey, you're in incognito mode, and we won't track your cookies or so on and so forth, but
your internet
we can protect you from going to stupid sites and blah blah blah. And the last point is, people standing behind you can still see what you're seeing. So, it's a fun read, and I'm sure all of us have been on incognito mode. So, for whatever reasons you may have. So, I think on that note, we're going to take a quick break.
We gotta go incognito.
And come back. All right, guys. Thanks. We'll come back in a bit.
Hi, I'm May, and I'm a huge fan of the indie music scene in our country. A scene that's relatively underground, even though it sometimes speaks its head overground, but there's no shortage of talent, and I get the privilege of interviewing some of the most awesome musicians on my show. I've had the likes of Euphoria, Krish Kale, Hardcore, Randolph Correa. I've had singer-songwriters, folk singers, electronic music producers, playback singers, rappers, fusion artists, instrumentalists, classical musicians, and so on. Whether mainstream or not, these people have chosen to release their original music, and these are the people currently shaping the direction in which our music scene is heading. Join me on my show every Monday and tune in to discover the unique talent coming out of India today. You can catch Made in India on your favorite podcasting app or our very own IVM podcast app.
All right, guys, welcome back. Thanks for still being tuned in. And we've been having some interesting conversations here. I know we were drifting off into the privacy and security world there, and I think that's going to be an overarching topic on a lot of our
once you get into that
on our conversations. But coming back to stuff happening around us in, again, social media, online content. There's so much happening in this space, especially around things like content, right? Content is something. There's a huge content wave happening in India specifically now, with international content coming in a big way. All the music guys are like seriously in the game. Streaming music and streaming video was something which just even 2 years ago we thought, no, it's not for us. Majority of people were still pirating and doing stuff like that. There's a real change happening, right? There's a change in the way people are accepting all of these services. But on the other side, our producers, do you think all kinds of content producers have sort of embraced it fully? Because Netflix still has a US only library.
Right.
There's so much music. Music is trying to catch up now. Music has been holding off the longest, I think.
I find release windows, like international release windows, to be the most moronic thing in the age of the internet. Yeah. And I felt like this for the last 10 years. It just annoys me that there is a thought that it makes sense to release something first in the US or first in India, for that matter. And then after that, 3 weeks later, it comes somewhere else, and then it comes somewhere else. And then the thing is, pop culture is a thing, right? It's about the conversation around it, right? It's not just the piece of art that you consumed. It's not just the piece of content that you consumed.
Right.
The conversation around it is equally important, because if the conversation around it wasn't stimulating, then you would consume pop culture, I think, in a slightly different way than we do currently.
Right.
Now, and
that conversation is global.
It's a global conversation, exactly. Yeah. So then in that way, it's really annoying. So I'll give you an example of what happened to me just this very morning. I'm a big fan of an author called John Sanford. He writes these crime thrillers and stuff like that. I'm part of a news group, and I got an email saying that his new book is out. And I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't even know his new book was out. And I didn't know his new book was out because it's not coming out in India for a couple of months from now. And so then I started to look at, can I get it? It's $1,500 to get it over here. And as much as I like the author, 1,500 rupees for a 250-page fiction book seems a little much.
Right.
So, you wind up not doing stuff. And it feels like, in this case, publishing companies particularly, because right now they seem to be the egregious offenders in this, right? Yeah. These guys particularly do not seem to understand that the experience is everything. How has music come back? Why are these streaming services so popular? Because they understand that ease of experience is everything.
Right.
It should be so easy to use these things. I go on to Savan, I say, hey, I like this playlist, play me this playlist. I go to Apple Music, oh, Chris Cornell passed away yesterday, there's a Chris Cornell playlist, let me play that playlist. Yeah. It's that easy to do this. In this case, I'm having to jump through hoops to get a book which I'm looking to pay you money for. Take my money, just take it easily, right? Why are you making life difficult for everybody?
And that's books, right? It's even bigger I'm assuming the audience is much bigger for video and audio.
Mm-hmm. Right. So on the audio side of it,
there's so much money floating around in this industry. I think this is again a sign of industry feeling that I need to keep things to myself.
Penny,
I need to really extract and exploit the consumer.
Exactly.
Otherwise, I'll just be gamed out of it.
So we were talking a while ago. There was this big news article that the founder of MP3, he's no longer giving away licenses to others to create MP3s.
Right. Yeah. MP3
and
is dead.
There was this big news about the MP3 is dead and people are moving to maybe FLAC or ACC or something like that thing. According to me, MP3 is not dead.
Mm-hmm.
It is going to stay in our hard drives for donkey's years till the time there is a hard drive and then there is a SSD and then there is probably a neural network drive and whatnot. I think it is going to stay there because it's in a digital format.
Right.
Yes, using the other standards can give you a better quality audio, but a normal consumer really doesn't care about a better quality audio. How many of you do you even think have gone to a Dolby Atmos enabled theater to catch up a particular movie?
At the same time, I think since you mentioned audio, right, the value of having MP3s has gone down a lot. I really don't download songs anymore.
I don't download songs either.
I pretty much stream most of my music.
Yeah, even I use it. But that's not to say I don't...
Just like I have some stuff for flights and stuff like that. But otherwise...
So I am of a habit saying that, listen, I wouldn't stream. I will buy those songs and download those songs because, I would love to have a copy to myself.
You represent a demographic.
Yeah,
it's just that I
don't belong to that demographic.
I think more and more people, I think that entire... sharing economy, millennial, even though we're not, none of us look like that.
I don't think I'm a millennial by any end.
But definitely that's the trend. Yeah. And I think what we're trying to talk about is the fact that the publishers and producers are still trying to fight that trend in a lot of ways.
Rights holders, just generally rights holders, right? So again, I'm a big fan of NBA, right? I love NBA basketball. Right. The playoffs are going on right now.
Right.
The NBA app is DRM to the point of ridiculousness.
Oh my God.
It is so annoying. I cannot watch the game for more than 30 minutes without having to restart the app. And it's like, dude, I pay you guys. Why are you making it difficult for the person who is paying you because of the people who are not paying you?
Yeah.
So question, what all services do you subscribe to? Netflix,
Amazon Prime, Hotstar.
I don't pay for
Balaji Alt.
Not yet.
I don't pay for that either.
But I think I'm going to. Yeah.
Savan?
I pay for Savan. I pay for Apple Music.
Apple Music.
A family subscription or a single subscription?
Single subscription.
Why not a family subscription?
Because I got no family.
Because it's just auto debiting and I haven't changed it.
Yeah.
Interestingly, if you realize it, if you're subscribing to Apple Music, there is no longer two-factor authentication is required on your credit card.
Yeah.
They're billing from Singapore.
Correct. That's been there for a while. Yeah. That's with Google services as well.
It'll become an issue. That's what Uber had to change, right? Uber was doing the same thing.
Google's still doing that. Yeah. All of these guys, the cloud service guys are still doing it.
Yeah. This stuff will, as they start doing more and more business in India, as they start establishing offices in India, they will have no choice but to get into two-factor authentication. Our RBI is very clear on that nothing is happening online without two-factor authentication, which is a good thing.
Yep.
I think it's a good thing. I think that two-factor authentication on online payments is a good thing.
No, it's definitely a good thing. And it's definitely something which Indians are very used to. Yes. Fundamentally, the ground up now, there's like when you go abroad, a lot of people I know, when they go abroad and they swipe a card and they don't have to do a PIN, they were like, dude, this is scary.
And a lot of people who come to India, if they have to insert a PIN,
they don't know what it is.
They just lose
it. They don't know what it is. I had some relatives down. They didn't know the PIN cards for their credit cards.
Yeah.
So it was
abroad, when you don't get an SMS for every swipe you do, they're like, dude, what just you don't even know?
Yeah.
Okay, fine, you don't enter a pin, but you don't get an SMS? How do you know how much was swiped?
It is, yeah.
Trivia question. Does anybody know the full form of SAVAN?
Yes, South Asian Audio Visual Network.
Wow. Yeah, wow. Did you know about it, Sheila?
I didn't.
Well, we work very closely with Savan. So, I mean, like, I've been to a bunch of their presentations and stuff like that. And this is...
So Savan is actually, it's an abbreviated
No, they've
form.
been doing some good stuff. So I just read, this week I read about the kind of machine learning they've put into their product, by the way.
Yeah, no, they are...
Apparently beating the other Indian guys, the other guys at least recommendations. I think a lot of people really like how, just like how Netflix has a reputation for doing good recommendations, I think Savan is catching up on that.
I think of the Indian music platform, Savan, Gaana, Wink, in my opinion, again, slightly biased opinion, right? Because we work with them fairly regularly.
I think you're not
but I think I think the experience on Savan is by far the best of all of the Indian apps.
Would it be fair to say that people are warming up to paying for services now?
No, not really. Not in India.
No.
So you think YouTube Red will never be in India?
It might come to India, and there might be...
It come in some form or the other.
There might be a certain number of people who will pay for it, right? I mean, like, I would pay for it. I would, I mean, like, in terms of... I watch enough YouTube that to eliminate the advertising, for me, there's value in that.
Hey, but there are ad blockers.
Yeah, but I mean, like, in the businesses we are in, should we really be using ad blockers?
But coming back to... I want to pull this conversation into a little... on the publisher and the regulatory side, for that matter, because while these things, as consumers, you want them, you want international content, you want freedom of content being shared and so on, beyond the publishers there's also, and since you mentioned on the topic of the government, there's a lot of rules and regulations around how content can be distributed, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do, what you're allowed to say, not allowed to say. There's also how it's measured. Yeah. There's always a third-party audit company. I mean, and this has been there in...
for TVs, it has been for...
Yeah, I think it's been there in media.
Before.
Big media has had this for a while. So now there's controversy around the fact that digital media doesn't have such bodies. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? What do you guys think?
I really think digital should have something like that thing, because what happens is for a very long time people would have release a song on YouTube and say that we've got X amount of hits in X amount of in X many hours. Now
I think, and everyone's beating the record, right?
Yeah. What nobody or what while people are thinking about it, nobody's asking a question, is that how did somebody count it as a view? Was it a 5-minute video that somebody watched end to end, or was it when somebody started the video from say 30 seconds?
How many fake accounts?
How many of them were bots? Nobody knows the statistics, right? And with Facebook also coming into the game, it now seems like it's a fight between two platforms, saying that who is able to drive a lot more traffic.
Yes, and Facebook actually conceded that they've screwed up on this count a few times, right? But again, these are platforms which are private company owned, which are closed systems, which will only give you so much data.
The second you call something a platform, you can't really call it a private company at the same time, right? When you're a platform, you have to function in a way which is slightly different.
But you are one of many options.
You are.
I think that's where the difference
lies. What would be the interesting bit out here is, just like you had TAM before, and the TAM probably was there, and which is why, the censor was there, right? So far, there has been no major censorship issues with a lot of things online. Imagine if there is a censor now, even online.
Hey, did you hear that guy who wanted to ban porn has filed another lawsuit? This time he got a 16-year-old client to say that I'm addicted to porn.
What? From India?
Yeah, you don't remember this guy who filed the case in the Supreme Court to ban porn?
Oh my God.
In India?
I think the judges don't want to really talk.
I'm sorry. You said that, it popped into my head. I thought I had to ask you guys about it.
No.
Sorry.
No, but again,
derailed the conversation.
What do you say? I mean, censorship of digital media goes against everything which is making it popular.
Yep.
I think I
agree 100%.
It's crazy we should even think along those lines.
I agree.
Right?
I agree on that bit, but like I'm saying again, there are people out there who think that digital should also be censored. Why not?
But that is, listen, I mean, like, the fact is...
But again, it's who's saying, is it the consumers who say it for whatever
there are
reason.
Many people who say
there are many people who are saying
but
it.
Publishers...
But there is a practical aspect to it, right? I mean, like, if we want to be the country that we are, where we have the ability to start businesses, where we have the ability to do things in a freer way than most of our neighbors do. Right? If we want to be that country, then it's impossible for us to be a censored internet country.
Correct.
That's the countries that censor internet are China, Turkey, Burma. You know, I mean, like, these are not countries which are business friendly, which are gonna...
Turkey just censored Wikipedia.
Yeah. And, you know, to the other aspect of it, you know, if China has censored a lot of things, they've actually built up tools internally to counter the other bigger internet companies, right? So there are pros and cons of it.
I don't see any pros to it whatsoever.
Right now, I really am very neutral. I don't know what is the right part to it. But again, you know, if something gets censored, and, you know, bringing to that point, you know, we spoke earlier that the government has blocked a lot of social network sites in Kashmir.
Right.
Because they do not want a lot of rumors to spread or something, and people out there are just using VPN
to
log on to this.
See, right? I mean, like, because there's an openness, right?
To do that,
and interestingly, there was this news around a while ago saying that there was a 16-year-old kid who actually created a Facebook for Kashmiris. Right. So, you know, it's like a same thing.
Sure, there are fine, but I mean, like, a Facebook for Kashmiris is not the same as Facebook.
I would agree.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, you know, it is the point of this censorship that they're trying to do has been complete failure, right? And the same thing happened in Gujarat during the, who was that guy?
The Hardik Patel.
The Patel Andolan. Yes.
We have with us someone.
Oh, yes. The
who has faced the brunt of this and who has seen this firsthand. I think... Hardik, why don't you reminisce about those days for us?
Okay, so during the agitation, what had happened is my Twitter handle is @Hardik, and
that's what happens when you get under 5,000.
There were a lot of guys who on Twitter who were abusing Hardik for whatever right or wrong that he was doing. Unfortunately, they were writing as @Hardik Patel. And what happened is...
I don't know if that's a failure of social media or Twitter as a product or what.
All the mention came to me, and, you know, I at one point of time, I did switch off my phone because my phone was ringing. I had to switch it off for a while. And then I said, okay, let me not...
That's what happens when you go viral, but for the wrong reasons.
So yeah, it has happened. And till today, whenever Hardik Pandya hits a 6 or a 4 or makes Mumbai Indian win a match, there are a few mentions which still come to me.
Wow.
So...
the perils of being...
early users.
Early user and...
First name on Twitter, man. Don't take it.
Popular first name.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, sorry, to come back to it, I mean, like, you know, even when they had that in Gujarat, right, everybody was walking around it. So, I mean, like, there's no... I don't understand what is the thinking behind putting these kinds of bans in place, because we are a country where we are not so draconian where we can shut this down.
Yeah, well, but I think on some levels of the country don't understand the technology. They just don't want to deal with it. Yeah. I think they just say, they shut this off instead of saying someone figure this out or figure how to regulate this. Yeah. In fact, same thing happened with, again, since we're on the topic of media, right? So same thing happened with the takedown of OnePlus ad.
Yeah.
Where we've known this for years that you can't malign other brands and so on. India has this weird advertising rule of... which I'm actually not so clear on what the actual rule is, but you know you can't talk about another brand with their name or likeness and so on.
You can't denigrate another brand. I think that's the language used.
Yeah, whereas, and especially in the US, it's been very open. Like, brands fight each other very healthy in ads.
And that's where the word Cola Wars actually came into it.
Exactly.
You should be able to, right? I mean, like, listen, if you lie in your communication, that's defamatory. Right. So, I mean, like, defamation takes care of this. Now, beyond this, why is there a thing where it's just saying that XYZ company cannot talk about ABC company? That makes no sense to me.
So, what exactly do you think happened there with the takedown?
So, So OnePlus had this ad which went on TV with Amitabh Bachchan and Rohan Joshi on the hot seat.
But there's just too many people who hit back at them, right?
And what happened is that this was in a KBC kind of environment where Mr. Bachchan asked Rohan Joshi to go ahead and pick the best phone which is out there.
Right, yeah.
And he selects OnePlus, and the other phones out there are probably the Nexus and
all
the
the other
iPhones
guys. So
and all
they
the guys,
use
right?
real names.
They use the real names. Somewhere
And
down
there
there was a disclaimer out there saying that this is the number one phone because of the sales it's done on Amazon. There were complaints which were filed which says that that's not true, because how do you describe a best phone? It could be best in terms of specs, or could be in terms of camera, or could be in and what happened is that the BCCL, I think that's what it's called, they went ahead and they took down the ad. They sent them a notice, and the ad was supposed to go off.
And Sony also, I think,
went back. And Sony also did an infringement act on the set, because there was a
ridiculous, though, isn't it? I mean, like,
see, everyone's out there protecting their IP. And they think they have the right to do so.
And they invest a lot of money in the IPs.
I understand that, but there is such a thing as parody, right? I mean, like, the show, this ad is clearly a parody.
Yeah, well,
but it wasn't mentioned anywhere.
But it's clearly a parody.
It was a parody with people like Amitabh Bachchan, who was actually part of the original show.
Yeah, but it's clearly a parody,
how could they not have got wind of this happening when it was being shot, and the OnePlus guy spent so much money on it?
I don't understand. To me, it should never have been banned. It makes no sense.
Same with the Pepsi ad with Kendall Jenner, which got banned, right? Again,
did that get banned, or was that just mocked?
It was
just mockery,
it was
right?
Taken down.
Because of the intense amount of mockery. I mean, like, it was a ridiculous
not
ad.
See it? How could people who sit in a room, get paid tons of money to make this, review this, think this through, not see it?
Because I think, it's some...
but again, we're digressing. But I think the main point here was, people take... So we have the government, we have private publishers trying to take down stuff. We have a lot of content, and media is still trying to hold on desperately to this old school thinking of what is mine. I need to get the best out of it. I need to ensure only my channels and my approved mediums are used for distributing my content and so on.
I think people want to protect their investments into the business. That's fair to them. There are others who would say, okay, if you've infringed on my business, I would want to protect it as well. So it's a business case. It's purely a business game.
It is a business case, but the thing is, I disagree with the business arguments.
Consumers are changing, right?
Yeah, I disagree with the argument on a business level, right? Again, when it comes to media consumption, it's all about ease of use. Right? If you want to consume media, if you want to be a platform where people are consuming your media, it is the only way that you're going to get people on is by making it easy for them to get to it.
Right.
The second we start putting in all these different hurdles and stuff like that, it's not gonna be as good. It's just not gonna work.
Right.
Right. So
times are changing. Yeah. Times are changing. I mean, we didn't have so many subscription services we all are subscribed to, and now we do. So. Yes, we do. I'm hoping brands and publishers all figure this out. They should make money, otherwise it's a moot point for them to even produce stuff. But they should. Let's hope censorship doesn't control.
I do not want censorship to get at least on the online business.
I hope so. I agree with that. I would have a tremendous issue.
I really don't think that guy is going to get through his Supreme Court appeal.
I don't think he is either.
I think that's something.
I can't see that going any further than.
No country would want to go down that path.
Well,
reduce productivity.
If our MLAs can watch porn in Parliament,
note,
the rest of us can watch it.
When the government sent out a notification to ban all the torrent sites, they actually listed all the sites
I know.
on the internet, and so for people who did not even know about those torrent sites actually figured it out.
So when they did that blocking, they blocked such ridiculous sites. It was amazing. I mean, there were so we do a show called Cyrus Says, which Cyrus Brocha hosts, and we did literally 5 minutes talking about all the insane sites that were there. There were things like I want to see your grandmother naked. And
God.
The names of the sites were so ridiculous. Right. I'll tell you what, we'll try and find the episode that was, and we'll put that in the description of this episode. So if you can listen to that.
Great. I think it's been a fun show. So thanks for coming on board, guys. Thanks for
so
coming in, Hardik. Let's hope you get a lot more social media hits from this and less from unscrupulous politicians or famous
but I'm
people.
still featured on BuzzFeed. I have a BuzzFeed article on my name. So
I know.
There you go. That's
one more feather in your cap.
That's a 2017 kind of thing, isn't it? Achievement? Yeah.
One more feather in your cap. So let's hope we can build to your repertoire.
We will.
But thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Thanks so much, Amit, for getting this together. I think Shunya 102 is now a wrap, and we'll hope to be back with you guys next week. Thanks so much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. Sorry to say, but there's been a slight delay due to the apocalypse having suddenly begun. As you can see, there's death, destruction, and chaos taking place all around us. But don't you worry, food and drinks will be served shortly, and I would recommend checking out IVM Podcasts to get some of your favorite Indian podcasts. We'll keep you going till this whole thing blows over. Thank you.